The End of the World by FernWithy, Chapter 2.
We all get baths that night, since it's bath night at the community home and Say is willing to look the other way on anyone who wants one. We all get 6 minutes to wash, and only 3 people use the water before the tub is refilled. Most of the community home kids are cleaner than we are, so Lachlan and I arrange to be the last to use the tub on our turns. Mom gets a tub to herself, because she's a grown-up, and also probably because I hear her coughing wildly in the water, which means it's likely bloody. By the time we get to the room Say has given us, we are cleaned up and combed. Mom looks much better. She grins and tells me that I'm to stay in this room and not to go up to Digger's. This really doesn't need to be said. Digger has 2 roommates. Besides, there are certain facts of life in District 12 that we've both decided ought to keep us in our own rooms, at least until we're allowed to make a little bit of money, or at least until we age out of the reaping, which, conveniently, is the same year. There's been a fair few times I've ended up jumping in snowbanks this winter, and Digger's only reluctantly come to the conclusion that she doesn't want to risk some poor kid's life on a few cups of parsley and pennyroyal tea. I don't mention this to Mom. I think she's happier imagining that she's just joking about the rule. It's warm and dry in the community home, and I go to sleep easily. I dreamed that the Quell card really read that every district would host its own games, and every kid in the district would have to participate, all live on Capitol View. Digger and I climb the fence to get away, but then we're lost in the woods and there are mutts everywhere. Digger is carrying her baby brother, and all of our parents are alive and healthy. But the grown-ups can't help anyone in the games. They're all in prison or something. Digger and I are on our own. I wake up when it starts raining, both in my dream and in the world. In the world, it's a miserable, freezing rain, driven by a howling that pelts the community home with nasty, smacking sounds. I have a feeling I'll have more repairs to do back at home after school today. I hope Mom stays here and Say finds a way to sneak her some food. Mom and Lachlan are still sleeping peacefully, since it's not even dawn yet. I go downstairs to the television room and watch news about the upcoming Quell. I try to do the math to figure out my chances, and Lachlan's, and Digger's. There are about 8,500 people in District 12. Most are 50 or under. There are 7 years when people are eligible for reaping, so I figure it would be about a seventh of the population, maybe 1,200. But the older you get, the more entries you have to have. So more slips in the reaping balls than that. Maybe 5,000. Then the tesserae, and who knows who's got those. I don't have the numbers I need, and it bothers me. I'm still trying to puzzle it out and make educated guesses when the community home alarm clock goes off and the residents start tromping downstairs for breakfast. Since we were explicitly not invited, I go back to our room and get ready for school. My clothes feel particularly scratchy and dirty, with me being clean under them. Lachlan is grumbling sleepily about his clothes as well. Mom wakes up and says that she wants to talk to Say after everyone has left for school. Lachlan bolts from the room.
I think I frightened him.
I sit down on a rickety chair beside her bed. Maybe a little. He's really scared of coming here.
I want to make sure they don't take you out of your classes.
I take her hand. I won't let them. But you try to hold on, okay? I'll finish school, and I'll take care of Lachlan.
No.
What?
You should have your own life. I don't want you to...
She shakes her head.
I don't want you to have to raise your brother. I think you'll both be better off here, after.
I look at her, sunken deep into the pillows, her eyes bruised looking, despite a good night's sleep. I look down. I don't want you to die, Mom. Could you please not die? She smiles and strokes my hair.
I'll try, Haymitch, but I probably won't succeed. And I need you to know what I want. I need to know that you and Lachlan will be all right.
I bet they know how to cure this in the capital.
Maybe, but I don't see why they'd have needed to learn it. No one's breathing in coal dust in the capital.
We sit there for a while, then she pulls her hand away and pats my arm.
You'd best get to school. I don't want any more tardy notes.
Okay.
And don't worry, today's not bad.
I nod and leave without saying anything else. She says that most days before I go to school, even though it's patently not true on a lot of them. Every day when I get home, I wonder if it'll be the day I find her, still and cold, on the other side of the door, just like Dad. It sometimes makes leaving in the morning a little hard, and I keep going back to check, which makes me late for school. She is not happy with me when I do that. I meet Digger and Lachlan downstairs, and we head off together in the rain. None of us has an umbrella, so we're pretty soaked when we get there. So is everyone else, though, including the teachers. On any other day, someone would notice us anyway and make a clever comment about me finally getting a bath. But today no one cares. People are talking about the Quell card, about what they'll do if they're called, about how it could be anyone at all with a double reaping. Elmer Parton, who's the best in our math class, is trying to talk about what the odds are and how no one's odds are really up that much, but he hasn't made any headway by the time the homeroom bell rings. Digger and Lachlan and I go our separate ways. My homeroom is filled with the other kids who take the elective classes. Maisie Donner is prominently wearing a pin shaped like a mockingjay. She's won it before. For some reason, she hoarded gold coins that she's gotten from peacekeepers in the sweet shop, and she melted them all to make a pin. It's pretty enough, but the coins probably could have found better use. She's reading a poem she wrote about how mockingjays survive everything the world throws at them. It has a beat to it, and some of the others are clapping along. Her twin sister Caitlin is singing a little bit as a background. Maisie and Caitlin spoke to the school board when Dad was arguing for me to take classes. Their parents were on his side. Maisie said I was the smartest person in school and should be able to learn whatever I wanted. I don't know why their family cared, and she hasn't had much to say to me since we started taking classes together, other than occasionally asking me to clarify something I've said. I look at their friend, Ruth Keaton, who can generally be counted on to be more sensible. Ruth's dad runs the apothecary shop. She's probably the prettiest girl in school, other than Digger. She's staring out the window like she can't see or hear anything, as she usually does when the Donners get political. Her boyfriend, Danny Millark, is trying to coax her into turning around. He gives up and looks at me.
Hey, Abernathy, guess you got the news last night?
Not much choice.
How bad do you think it's going to be?
I shrug. Elmer Parton says the odds aren't changing that much.
Yeah, but it'll be somebody. What do you think the games will be like when they're killing 47 kids?
I sit down. Pretty much like when they kill 23, except twice, plus one. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Chalfant, who also teaches history, comes in and puts his books on the desk. Quietly, he pulls out 8 chairs and lines them up against the back wall. 2 for every year that we've been in the reaping, though he doesn't explain this. He pulls out 4 more, taking one away from Maisie, and shoves them in a corner. He says nothing about this.
I've been instructed to remind you that the quarter quell is a requirement of the Treaty of the Treason. Its circumstances are not to be questioned or discussed in any manner until the reaping and the games, and then only as the games are always discussed. Are we all quite clear on this?
We all make appropriate noises. He looks at Maisie.
And Miss Donner, I highly recommend you revisit the rules on ostentatious jewelry in the school setting.
Maisie crosses her arms under her pin and glares at him. Chalfant takes attendance and gives us a 2-question quiz on mandatory viewing to prove we all watched it. Then the bell rings and we go on to classes. The instruction to not discuss the quell has all the authority of a piece of wet tissue paper trying to block the rain. In math, Elmer Parton tries to explain that the second drawing will only have 1 less entry than the first, so the second odds aren't a whole lot worse than the first. At lunch, people are trying to guess who will be targeted and why the quell is what it is. In physical education, people are talking about training, since the odds are much worse this year. In Chalfant's history class, we talk about the end of the old Roman Empire, even though we're supposed to be talking about the Sino-Indonesian Wars. Now and then, the teachers go by and scowl, stopping the conversation temporarily. I guess it doesn't matter to them what the odds are. The odds are 1 in 1 that they're going to lose 4 students instead of 2.
I wonder what they'll do if they draw the same name twice.
Lachlan says, on the way home. It stopped raining, but the cold puddles soaked through our shoes.
I mean, except for 12-year-olds, everyone's name is in more than once, and they won't stop the reaping to take all the duplicates out.
Digger shrugs.
They'd probably just pick again.
Are they allowed to do that? Just keep picking until they get a name they can use?
We turn down the seam together. Sullen teenagers are throwing knives at boards. A few are wrestling. not by any rules the team at school would recognize. Avert McKinley is practicing tying knots. As far as preparation for the games goes, this is about as much as anyone from District 12 gets. Lachlan wants to stop and watch for a little while, but I want to go back to the house and check on Mom, so we move on by. Mom is actually pretty chipper after a good night's sleep. The tarp I put up yesterday has held, and there's been very little leakage. It's not totally watertight, so there's some, but it didn't rip and let through a torrent. Most of what has come through got absorbed by the insulating material we've jammed up against the ceiling. Mom has been mopping up what puddles there are. Someone from the community home must have brought back her rocking chair because it's sitting by the fire like always.
Tell me about school.
Everyone's talking about the Quell. I heard Eddie Carroll talking about the last Quell, and he said,
Rona holds up her hands.
There is enough talk about the Hunger Games. Tell me about school, Lachlan. What did you learn today? Do you have homework?
Lachlan bites his lip.
some in math, but I couldn't see the problems to write them down.
Did you ask your teacher?
I did.
Digger produces a piece of paper from her bag.
Well, not me, but Daisy Connery from the home. She caught up with me at lunch and said she didn't think you got your homework. I think she's sweet on you, Lachlan.
Lachlan blushes and takes the homework, scurrying over to his corner of the room to work on it. Mom grins.
Thank you, Indigo.
Well, I recommend the Abernathy boys as model boyfriends to all aspiring girls.
I roll my eyes.
Well, you'll have no argument from me. Now, will you take Haymitch out somewhere and not let him worry about me for a few hours?
Mom. She raises her eyebrows.
Look at me, Haymitch. I'm clean, I'm rested, and I'm not coughing. Had a ride back home in a proper truck from the community home.
You sure?
I'm sure. Go out, have some fun, and no Quell talk.
Come on, I have a place I want to be. You should come.
I don't take much more convincing. Mom does look all right, and has moved on to start hectoring Lachlan through his math homework. Digger raises her eyebrows, and I shrug. We go back outside.
You don't mind being a little naughty, do you?
We approach the fence. It's supposed to be electrified, but it never is.
I best get Say some meat, or she'll give me the stink eye at dinner tonight.
I frown. I've never been hunting with Digger before. I don't even know how to hunt. She pulls up a wire on the fence and rolls underneath it. I follow. It's not the first time I've done this, but it's the first time I've done it without actually knowing why. What are we doing? I ask that when we're a good distance from the fence.
You are going to practice with my slingshot, and you're going to teach me to get away from someone who's grabbed me. Then I'm going to hunt and hopefully catch something, and I'll teach you how to gut it.
I raise my eyebrows. So much for no Quell talk.
Haymitch, I can't stop them from reaping either one of us, but maybe we can have a better chance if we practice something.
District 12 never has a chance. Those kids from 1 and 2 and 4, sometimes, there's no way they just learn that stuff between the reaping and the games. They've been practicing for years.
But we have won. Deronda Carson won back in the third games.
Dumb luck. Have you seen those games? She just got lucky. That boy from 4 slipped and fell into the ravine. Digger crouches down and reaches into a hole at the base of a tree. She brings out a little canvas bag.
She also knew what she was doing. She did make it to second place before he slipped. She came to the home once just before she died, and she told us stories. She said it was scary, but if you keep your head, you can win.
I decide not to push the subject where it's begging to go, which is that 2 years ago, Deronda Carson stopped keeping her head. I guess 44 years of not being able to get a single tribute through on her theory of keeping your head finally got to her, especially with the last one being her 12-year-old grandson. Or maybe it was living alone out there in Victor's village. Whatever it was, she hanged herself from an oak tree behind her fancy house out there. The official story is that she fell out of the tree and broke her neck, but everyone knows what really happened. Why would a woman 59 years old be climbing a tree to fall out of it in the first place? Digger gets her slingshot from the bag and spends a few minutes teaching me the mechanics of it, then an hour growing increasingly dismayed at my utter inability to hit anything. After a while, she mutters that she needs to try and catch something, and disappears with the slingshot for half an hour, instructing me to sharpen her hunting knife while I wait. After a while, she mutters that she needs to try and catch something, and disappears with the slingshot for half an hour, instructing me to sharpen her hunting knife while I wait. She comes back with a raccoon. She generally dresses her kills back at the home. Say can apparently stretch out the innards for a good distance, but she wants me to practice being precise with a knife. My skills here are more satisfactory to her, though she doesn't believe I could do it if she brought the raccoon back alive. I've killed things. Lachlan makes traps in the backyard. Got some squirrels and mice and stuff, and sometimes squirrels come in through the walls. I can do it if I have to.
And if they're not trapped?
What do you want me to do, Digger? Digger sits down heavily.
I don't know. Maybe this is dumb. Maybe it doesn't make a difference.
I realize something and say it before I think. You're actually scared. She glares at me.
Yeah, I'm scared. Of course I'm scared. They're going to pick 4 of us this year to go and die. Why aren't you scared?
There's not a good answer for it. I could talk about the odds, like the Capitol people do. I could talk like the more paranoid people around here do, and point out that the Capitol doesn't have any reason to pick me, or Digger, so I don't have to worry. The truth is just that I have about a million other things to be scared of. Mom hacking out her lungs being the biggest of them, and there's nothing left in me to be scared over what the Capitol's up to. I don't say any of those things. I just shrug. Guess I figure what'll happen will happen.
Well, ain't that philosophical?
Maybe. She looks at me a long time, then rolls her eyes and leans back against the tree.
Has it got some kind of special name? Like exo whatever it was that you told me about?
Existentialism. I don't know. I think probably. I don't remember reading it anywhere. Just seems sensible.
I can't believe you learn words for thinking in school.
I didn't. Well, I did learn it in school, but not in class. It's just a book I was reading at the library. Digger smiles fondly.
If I get reaped and then win, I'm buying you a whole library of your very own, just so you can tell me the name of the things I'm thinking about.
Why don't you buy one for yourself? She laughs at this idea, as she always does, but she doesn't explain herself. She just thinks the idea of her taking fancy classes or learning fancy things is self-evidently ridiculous for some reason. She tips her head back and closes her eyes.
You know what else I'd buy?
What?
A red dress.
A dress. You. She opens her eyes and looks over at me.
Not just a dress, a red one. Bright red. The kind that sort of glows when it's cloudy out. And a bright blue one. And a bright green one.
Why?
'Cause I'm tired of gray. Even when we have colors, the homespun makes them gray and the dust makes them grayer. The reds are gray, the blues are all gray. Even the grass is gray from all the coal dust. If I was rich, I'd never want to look at another gray thing in my life. Except your eyes.
I smile. But they'd make the cut.
Well, it wouldn't hardly be worth it to be rich if I couldn't have that at least.
She smiles.
That would be your cue to come over here and kiss me, if you're wondering.
I scoot over to her tree, avoiding the raccoon guts, and kiss her. She settles into the crook of my arm and slides her arms around my waist.
What would you do?
What?
With money.
Oh. Get Mom to the Capitol and make them give her new lungs. I read they could do that.
Pretend your mom has been magically cured and Lachlan has glasses and I'm well fed and all the little orphans have been happily adopted and we've rebuilt your house. Come on, what would you buy just for yourself?
Dunno. I only ever had 2 luxuries.
And what are those?
I grin. My books and my girl.
I'm a luxury?
Well, I feel spoiled anyway.
Come on, something you can buy.
I'd probably ask you what I should get.
I'd tell you a fine suit or 2 and a pocket watch.
A pocket watch?
Yeah, so you'd stop being late to half your life.
She grins.
Besides, watch chains are sexy.
Watch change.
Oh yes, very sexy.
Alright. I'll buy myself a fine suit and a pocket watch. I'd buy you whatever makes you happy.
Like what?
This is a test, isn't it?
I gave you imaginary presents. Now I want to unwrap mine.
The first thing that comes to mind is the prettiest, biggest ring I could find for her. But it's not time to mention something like that. Well, I'd I'd give you those dresses you want. Didn't know you wanted them, or I'd have said that right off. And books with all the poems you like best in them.
You'd still say the poems out loud, wouldn't you?
Of course I would. I'd have read them to you all day if you want.
I want.
And maybe a solid jacket, an umbrella for when it rains, and a fine hunting rifle.
That's what I love about you. Out here in the woods all alone, and you're thinking about arming me.
What can I say? I'm always worried about bears eating you out here.
Of course, if you bought a rifle, they'd just take it away. Maybe a bow and arrow. There's someone around here who makes them. I've found a couple when I'm out.
Just left around? Aren't they afraid you'll steal them?
They're hidden in logs, but everyone who comes out here knows that everyone else who comes out here needs to. Might leave a note sometime, though, to see if we can do some trading business.
She smiles sheepishly.
I did try it once, though. No one was around, so I shot an arrow. Took me forever to find it, and it was nowhere near where I meant it to be. I put it all back.
They were just in logs.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. Just asking. Wonder if there are any hidden in town.
Nothing to hunt in town.
Digger looks up at the sky.
It's getting late. We should go back.
She puts the gutted raccoon in her game bag and reaches down for my hand. I stand up beside her, and she leads the way back to town.
The role of Haymitch Abernathy was performed by Blitz. Digger Hardy was voiced by Christy Suter. The roles of Dano Malark, Lachlan Abernathy, and Mr. Chalfont were played by Fabricio Mangone. The role of Rona Abernathy was played by Sim. Featuring music from Maiah Wynne.